Ramon, I want to kick things off with you. It's been a rough few months for Samsung. It's just been one negative headline after another. We had the exploding smartphones. Now we have the heir apparent that's caught up in this corruption scandal. Okay, so can one phone really turn all of this around?
I think one phone is a very important first step to getting this turned around. But we shouldn't just look at the phone just itself, because in and of itself, it's a beautiful phone. It's an elegant device. But if you look at the past several months, you take a look at what Samsung has done. A very thorough investigation, extremely transparent with the process, an 8-point process that they're very comfortable with in terms of quality control, to the point where they're trying to champion it and advise some of its competitors to adopt. So when you put all that together, I have to think that Samsung is feeling very confident that they've solved the problem, they've addressed the issue numerous times. Even today, at today's presentation, they've referenced what happened and underscored their commitment to quality and safety numerous times without having to rehash the whole thing again. So as far as this device is coming out as the first flagship device after the battery debacle, it's a strong first step for Samsung.
So David, Ramon called this phone beautiful and elegant. It's come out with a smattering of additional features. I mean, what's the consumer reaction been like so far, though?
Well, it is beautiful, and I think Samsung really made a good move delaying its initially planned introduction from Mobile World Congress to now. It even helps underscore how seriously they take the process of getting it right before they release it. I think people are going to love this phone. Will it turn around the company's fortunes? That's another matter, because I think this company has, not Uber scale problems, but a lot of challenges facing it. And also they have a bigger challenge, which is that, as you mentioned Alexa earlier in Caitlin's report, but the fact is, the smartphone era is kind of ending, and we don't know exactly what's coming next, but that could be more important in the long term. In the short term, this phone will probably sell very well.
And I want to take a look at Samsung's market share. It actually fell below 20% in the fourth quarter for the first time in 4 years. Now, they obviously have competition coming from Apple on the high end, but they also have lots of up-and-comers like Oppo and Huawei. So, Ramon, what do you think is the main source of pressure there? What's causing this drop in market share?
Well, if you take a look at where Samsung is competing, it clearly has its position staked out in the high end of the market, where you see all the Galaxy S8 and the Galaxy Note devices. But as you go further on down the tiers into the mid-range, that's getting constantly squeezed. Then you go into that low range or entry-level range, usually about $150 and below. That's a dangerous part of the market to play for Samsung, even if they can get scale, because it ends up being a contest for how low can you price your smartphone. And if you look at some of the vendors, not Oppo or Huawei, but a number of smaller and regional companies that competing all over in Asia that are willing to lose money in favor of gaining market share. And that's a very, very dangerous market to play in when the market itself is growing at about single-digit territory. So as far as the S8 is concerned, this is really going to help Samsung cement its position in that high end and hopefully generate some money, because let's face it, these are not inexpensive devices. So that's going to help Samsung in the long run too.
Right, you said it. These are going to be quite pricey, and in the meantime, it seems like the iPhone 7, 7 Plus are going to be the main competition until they Apple comes up with their new updated phone. I mean, David, what's your initial reaction on how this may stack up to what's coming from Apple?
Well, one of the things that really matters is China, and it's not just because China has several competitors, but also because the market is so vast there. And I think it's also a country which is increasingly, in many industries, but in this one among others, putting special preference on local champions, of which Oppo and Huawei are two. And I think that's a challenge for both Apple and Samsung. I think probably this is going to kind of keep the competition with Apple relatively stable for the short term. The real open question is, how great is the next iPhone? And we don't really know yet. But if it's great, that could be. Apple still has a better brand than Samsung by a long shot. It still commands the sort of halo of the top of the market, and I don't see that changing.
And Ramon, before we move on, I want to get your thoughts on this big corruption scandal, heir apparent J.Y. Lee in jail. Does this cast a cloud over consumers? Do consumers even care?
Absolutely not. If anything, this may be a concern for investors and perhaps competitors in terms of analyzing Samsung's strategy going forward. But if you ask the next, let's say 20-year-old male camping out in line at your favorite carrier, is it really going to matter to you what the leadership is doing? Chances are he's going to say probably not. He wants to get his hands on this device and play with it from dawn till dusk.